Hey guys, this is Ryan and this is my buddy James, and today we're going to talk about a few game-changing core exercises to help with your workouts. Now last video we talked about breathing and how it relates to core stability and posture. Don't forget that, you should have been practicing. Now we're going to find out today, what is the core? So James, what does the core consist of?
The core mainly consists of, depending on who you ask, about close to 30 different muscles. Every muscle that attaches to the hip in the front, the side, above, and below. All muscles. The inside of the thighs, the outside of the thighs, and mainly the glutes. Cannot forget about the glutes.
Alright, so what James is talking about is the lumbopelvic hip complex, or the LPHC. Now the lumbopelvic hip complex consists of exactly what it says. Lumbar spine, the pelvis, and the hips. And they come together to form a compound that is very important to being a synergist or a helper to the core musculatures, the ones up here and in the back. So what the LPHC consists of is mostly the glutes, as James was saying. So the glutes have a lot of power in how it stabilizes the spine and transfers and controls forces. That's right. So during our exercises, we're going to focus a lot on glute activation and abdominal activation as well, since they work synergistically with each other. Not to mention, we're not going to forget about core breathing, or that diaphragmatic breathing we talked about in depth on the last video. So having a nice, strong, stable core, research has shown that it helps prevent lower extremity injury as well as upper extremity, because the arm's attached to the thorax, and it helps with the control, transfer, and production of forces. So no matter what background you're coming from, whether it be athletic or sedentary, this will help you be more biomechanically efficient, reduce injury, increase performance, and therefore results, whatever your goals may be. Alright, so let's get into these exercises. Now we're going to go over the basic form of the exercises along with their progressions and variations so you can increase difficulty or adapt them to your own specificity. Let's go over them right now. Alright, so the first exercise we're going to get into is called a floor bridge, or a supine bridge. Supine meaning you're on your back. Now this is a glute exercise, but because we talked about the LPHC, we know the importance of the glutes with the rest of the core. So James, what I'm going to ask you to do is raise your hips up toward the sky, squeezing the glutes as hard as you can. Now if you're a trainer or you're training by yourself and you want to be more aware of your body, you can take your thumbs just like this and check your glutes to see if they're activated. Please don't do this to other people unless you have their written permission. Now James is going to hold this position. And now if you watch the future video on tempo, you see this is an isometric contraction. James, go ahead and go into an eccentric contraction and slowly let your body down. This is helping to build core stability, and you'll see in the next video when we talk about tempo, hypertrophy as well if you add enough resistance in your workout. So James, go ahead and raise your hips. Slowly let them back down. Now you can't see from the front, but his knees are forward, his toes are forward, and his knees are directly over the toes. If I want to make this more difficult, I could bring his feet together. Go ahead and do that now. This is causing the adductors to activate a little bit more, which is causing some of those hip stabilizer muscles to help focus on the synergistic relationship with the core. Come back down. Now the glutes, like I said, are very important. Now there's a muscle on the lateral side of the glute called the glute medius, on both sides of course. We're going to activate that now. So I'm going to take a band around James's knees, and he's going to raise up and try to push out with his knees. This is going to help to activate the glute medius and the glute maximus. Go ahead and go down. And back up. Now the glute medius is important because it helps foot striking if you're a runner, helps reduce that lower extremity injury risk, and also helps with the rest of the core stability that we were talking about before. So a progression for the bridge would be single leg, also known as marching. So James, go ahead and extend your leg. Don't forget to dorsiflex or pull back on the toe. This not only helps activate the quadriceps, but by doing this you'll help activate the glutes a little bit more. Go ahead and bring it down. Feel free to do this on a Bosu ball or stability disc to help increase your proprioceptive awareness, or your body's idea of where you are in a given space. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the high plank, which is a great exercise for glute, core, and upper extremity stability. Now what's great to do about the high plank is when his feet are out to here, I can push on the heels to help that glute medius activate so he can get his glutes warmed up and help stabilize the spine. So push against my fingers slightly. Very good. So his glutes are activating now, and I can see his back straighten out a little bit more. Now you can isometric exercise, or what you can do is add anti-rotational resistance. So James, start touching your chest without moving the hips. So what James is doing now is resisting rotational forces. This is going to help a lot of the obliques, abdominals, and parts of the glute activate. Make sure to try not to rotate those hips. Now if this is too hard, you can come down onto your knees. Same thing, keep that alignment of the spine. Go ahead and try to touch your chest. Very good. Or you can just stick one arm out and hold that single arm position. Go ahead and bring this down. Go back to high plank. Or you can stick out one leg and hold an isometric position. Very good. You can do alternate, you could do all sorts of stuff with this. If you want, you could do this by adding in a push-up between every repetition. Make sure to keep the hips slightly down and the glutes activated the whole entire time. Don't forget to breathe through the core and squeeze the core as well. Very good. Now, one more variation of the high plank. We're going to experiment with levers. Just by extending the toes, increasing the total length of his body that he must support. So go ahead and walk your feet back in. Walk your toes back out. This is also called walking the plank. Pretty clever, I know. Exercise is going to be the bird dog. This is a great exercise, very popular in yoga and Pilates. It is used for a lot of core stability, especially with the contralateral muscles that must stabilize. If you're doing one leg up and one arm up on the same side, the ipsilateral musculatures as well. This also helps with upper extremity stability. So James, go ahead and show them a bird dog. Make sure you're activating the glute of the leg that's up, your hips are not rotated, and your core is activated completely. Go ahead and bring it back down. Now, a way you can modify this to make it a little bit different is stand on the toe and the knee is off the floor. Go ahead. Lots of rotational resistance like we talked about in that high plank position with the anti-rotation as well. This is a great exercise if you can handle it. Take it slow and make sure you progress to it. If you're very advanced, you could add a dumbbell or a resistant band for your legs or your arms. So next we're going to experiment with levers with single leg, lunge, and squat with a band resistance. So I'm going to hold this band in different directions and his core will have to react to resist those directional pulls. Go ahead and stand on one leg, activate that quadricep and that glute and that core while I pull in different directions. This means his core is going to have to react differently and he's going to have to develop certain strategies to variable resistance. Go ahead and do a lunge now. So the lunge is a great functional movement and he's going to have to resist me from the side without moving his arms, keeping them outstretched of course. Now we're going to try a squat. So once again, same tactic, I'm going to pull up in different directions and he's going to use his arms and his core to stay straight and stable. Very good. All right, the next exercise is called a grasshopper. Now we're going to work the adductors and the abductors of the hip because we've talked about this whole time how important of the roles they play with the rest of the core. So go ahead and lift up your legs. So the legs will come up and already that creates some kind of activation within this core musculature and some of the hip flexors. He's going to abduct or bring his legs outward and adduct, bringing his legs inward. And he's going to keep doing this, breathing through the core, up and down diaphragmatically. Now to make this more dramatic, he can lift up his arms so he has less ground support. You could stop here and kick your legs up. You could bring your legs in. And from here you could do scissor kicking, up and down, or crossing the legs over and under each other. Doing these motions within this kind of exercise will help the activation of the adductors, abductors, and also help move these muscles in different planes of motion. All right, guys.
Thanks for watching today.
Check out www.glatfitness.com for more videos and information.
Jam on!